Sukiotu and Namo Buddhaya. Well, this morning supposed to start a new series, and we are now moving into the practice. And I think this basic topic, which is actually discussed, taught, and understood by many Buddhists, is that this is the discipline and also the methodology that we mold our life to try and adopt a routine as well as the steps leading to eventually our wisdom and enlightenment. So Dana, Sila, and Bhavana is actually the three stages which is often presented in the sense of your steps that will lead you to perfect your practice and subsequently enhance your understanding of the Buddha's teachings. The first one, of course, is Dana, which we will discuss more elaborate this morning. And I believe you will continue with the discussion on Sila and Bhavana the following week. Unfortunately, Sister Doris asked me to continue next week. But I have to say and apologize that I won't be in Malaysia during the coming week. So I think another speaker will come in and continue. So because I will be leaving for London this coming Wednesday, so it will be quite some time before I come back. And I believe I will just give you the gist on the Dana, Sila, and Bhavana generally, and then eventually discuss with you a little bit more on the practice of Dana. Now, Dana basically is sharing and giving. I think this is important, a very important action in most of our Buddhist practice, is that we don't always take and receive. Receiving the Dhamma is also receiving. Taking donations and contributions is also receiving. But we have to place ourselves to actually be on the giving side, which is actually sharing what you have and giving away what you think will be beneficial for others. So this is the action of a person that has in his mind all the time all beings rather than his being. And this is when we understand the concept of one universe. Because we are all part and parcel and interconnected within this universe of ours. We all know that we are a bundle of energy. As we all can see from our understanding of the Panchakandas. Now, Panchakandas means the 5 bundles of energy that composes this mind and body. 4 of the khandas, the mind, and 1 of the khandas, the body, the physical and the mind, the mental. And therefore, we are also a small mass or a small bundle of energy within this large confines of the bigger mass called the universe. And anything we do and anything we feel, anything we see, anything we understand is interconnected because it is linked. Because all our energy are actually linked. And the reason why you can listen to me is because we are linked by energy. And that the molecules vibrates. As I vibrate over here, it travels and knocks each other. And it links each other until to your ears. And then eventually you perceive a sound. And then you recognize it as a word. And you understand the message. So we are connected. So each time we think, each time we act, each time we speak, we are all connected. So therefore, whatever we do here is actually for the benefit of the environment, the surrounding, and the universal energies. So if we can think like that, then we'll always be very aware and be very mindful that since I'm interconnected, therefore I shall be mindful and aware of my action, my speech, and my thoughts. And thus, whatever I have is actually interconnected also. That at the moment now, I am in possession of it. I'm in possession of wealth. I'm in possession of materials. I'm in possession of experience. I'm in possession of knowledge. But this is temporary only here. But eventually, as the connectivity happens, then you, whatever you have, will then pass on and it goes to the next phenomena or another being and another person. So we should at all times understand this as dana. Dana means you are sharing, you are contributing for the betterment of yourself, so that it is also for the betterment of everyone else and all beings. And so whenever we say, may all beings be well and happy, you are happy, everyone is happy. So you share your things and knowledge to another man, to another animal, where you treat them as another living being. They are no different from us because we are part and parcel of the psychophysical energy, which is interconnected. Except that their forms are different. So within the 31 planes of existence, we are all existing in different forms. But we all have the same elements. That is our mind and our body. And then whenever we share, and then whenever we impart and contribute, we never expect anything in return. In other words, we won't be disappointed. Because even if there is nothing in return, even the effort is futile and doesn't go to any benefit, you rejoiced by yourself. There are many who say that they do a lot of good things, they do a lot of dana, but the other side did not benefit, or the environment did not benefit. But we always have to ask ourselves whether we have benefited from it. If we have rejoiced, that punya itself is good enough to share, even though they are not in our proximity. And that's the reason why we say transfer of merits. Transfer of merits means we have rejoiced ourselves. We feel good, we feel happy about what we have done, what we have contributed. And with this rejoicing of the mind, understanding that the moment we think of the other person, he may be a departed relative, or he may be a person who is not staying nearby. As long as our mind thinks of it, that energy level itself is interconnected. So what you think is also what they think, what you see is also what they see. And therefore, if you are rejoicing and you are connected, then they are also rejoicing the same joys and same satisfactoriness that arise in the mind. So when we say 功德给他们, the 德 is rejoicing, punya. So whenever we transfer this punya, where does the punya come from? The punya comes from here, within. And from then onwards, as we connect, then that punya is transferred. So we don't use courier service in this case. We just have to think of them. And that's the reason why whenever we have done some dana or do some meritorious deeds, then we say, let me transfer this rejoicing of the good deed that I have done. Then you think of your departed relative. It could be your departed parents, it could be departed siblings, it could be their departed relatives and friends. And the moment we capture the thought of them in our minds, there is a connectivity. In other words, you actually transmit a frequency which is also their frequency. So if we have tuned to the same frequency, we will see the same picture and hear the same message. If all of us are tuned to Jiu Papa, then we will hear the same music, isn't it? So all we have to do is just focus our mind and then think of them while rejoicing in that good action and good deed and dana that you have contributed. Then that rejoicing appears in their mind too. So for that moment of rejoicing, do they think of their suffering? Do they think of their unsatisfactoriness of life? Do they have dukkha in their mind? In other words, you are relieving them of the dukkha that arises in their mind and replacing it with rejoicing and happy thoughts. And therefore, you are contributing towards their well-being also. And that's the meaning of transfer of merits. Gong te doesn't mean you have to chant and then after that, pack it in one envelope and then after that, send over to them. You just have to think about them. And that's the reason why we say, let us now recollect our departed relatives. The moment that instruction is given, all you have to do is appear in your mind, oh, that was my departed father. You see him as well and happy. You see him as happy, smiling, and pleasant looking. And then you wish him well. And then you say, may he also share in the same rejoicing. And think of the rejoicing that you are experiencing. They will also experience the same joy. So, do you expect anything in return? Do they come and pat you on your head and say, thank you very much? Basically, when you are rejoicing, you are already enjoying the satisfactoriness in your mind, the peacefulness and the happiness. So a lot of time we always say that, when we do so many good dana or action or good deeds, and the other side, they never reciprocate. Is it wasteful? Is it wasted? And so we always ask that when you have a candle which is burning bright, and then you light another candle, even if the candle doesn't brighten up, if the candle doesn't, have a flame, do your candle light loses its intensity. It burns as bright. It burns in the same manner. And at the same time, dana also means forgiving. You forgive someone for doing something not correct. Now, there are many times we sort of having a unpleasant thought about the other person and say, oh, he has done something wrong, he will suffer. But learn to forgive. Forgive someone when they have done something wrong, not only to you, but even to society. Because for him to err, to have that error in his mind, is definitely a failure on his judgment, but he is not beyond redemption. That's why in the Buddhist context, we don't have this thing called capital punishment. That means an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. No. Everybody who has done something wrong has an opportunity for redemption. So if he has an opportunity, then forgive him. Give him a chance. Of course, you move on to the next step, which is called Sila. Now, when you have dana and you have rejoiced, then you must create a morality or platform for that rejoicing to rest. So it's like a fence against the encroachment of bad things which destroy our body and our mind. In other words, it's our protective shield. It's a shield where you envelop yourself. Because of your Sila, there is respect for you. Because of Sila, they recognize your well-being and allows you to continue your well-being. And because of Sila, they accommodate sometimes whatever that you are doing and adjust themselves to you. So it's almost like a medicine which heals the disease of the world when we have Sila. If everybody behaves responsibly, if everybody behaves in a role that they ought to play in this community, in this life, then there will be peace. Because everybody knows how to protect each other. And everybody knows exactly what role they have to play in order to ensure the peace and harmony. Unfortunately, you do get fallouts where they only think of trying to benefit themselves. And when they have that, then they are not able to have that peace of mind. And thus, that platform, that shield, will be damaged. So Sila is more like a protection. But it has to come from your merits too. It has to come from your dana. Because dana is the contributor. And thus creating help you to create a shield. And as long as you can permit and sustain that shield, you are protected. So Sila is basically a Buddhist morality, which is based on the universal law of cause and effect. Cause and effect means there must be an action to, and what you call to invite a response or a reaction. So when we understand this morality of karma or law of action and reaction, we will then tend to protect ourselves because if we don't want to face any resultant, then don't sow the seed. If you don't want any bad results or bad reaction, then don't start it. Don't give it that opportunity to germinate. So if you don't sow the seed, then you don't reap the fruits. But of course, if you want to have that good fruits, then sow good seeds. So that is the understanding of the law of karma. Basically, it's an action. You must have done an action, giving it a resultant, a result or a fruit of the seed that you have contributed. So when we understand this, we will then have that morality or that practice that we try to avoid doing actions which will give rise to bad reactions. And we always understand the power of it. Because sometimes we say, you see, I do so many bad things, nothing happened to me. Wait lah. Because once you sow a seed, the seed will have to wait for conditions. Isn't it? You must have water, you must have sunlight, you must have shade, you must have nutrients in the soil. But when all these conditions are present, the seed automatically, without being told, will germinate. If the conditions are not there, then it will remain hibernating. It will remain a potential, but the conditions are not there for it to blossom, for it to germinate. So therefore, it can remain there forever. No? That's the reason why we say that in the understanding of this morality of action and reaction, we know that sometimes we do commit an error. We do make mistakes in our life. But as long as we realized it and don't do it, we are protected. Number two, the seed that we have sown, which you know it's a bad action, but it can give rise and a potential to a bad reaction. What we do is we starve it of the conditions and the oxygen for it to germinate. In other words, you can manage your destiny. Destiny is not fatal or fatalistic. In other words, if you have sown it, sure come out one, or sure will germinate. No. What you do is you maintain a positive mind, a peaceful mind, a happy mind. These are conditions together with your sila, together with your merits, that will protect you, that will create the conditions only for your positive seeds to germinate. But your bad seeds doesn't find it suitable. The nitrogen or the oxygen is not conducive. Therefore, it will remain hibernating even until our last day. As a being, we still have a lot of bad seeds not finished yet. But do you want it to come out and say, let's finish it off before we go? Don't have to. And that's how we manage our destiny. We may have done a lot of and sown a lot of bad seeds in our lives before. And understanding that in the Dhamma we learn about previous lives. This is not the only life. And their seed is still hibernating up and down in this karmic stream. But it has no chance to come up because we never provided the right conditions. So Sila is a condition. Sila is a platform. Sila is the protection. So an act which is good or bad according to the manner it affects oneself and others. All right? All other criteria are misleading. Now, lay Buddhist morality is embodied in the 5 precepts that we practiced. And 5 precepts actually enables us to live together with mutual trust and respect. If every one of us here observe the 5 precepts well, we are in a safe environment. We have security. We know that you won't kill me unnecessarily. We know that you won't take away my things unnecessarily. We know that you won't commit any sexual misconduct on us. We know that you won't say anything which is false and harsh. And we know that you will not take any intoxication which will cause you to lose your mind and then hurt yourself as hurt me. So when I live in a community where there is this practice of Sila, I feel very safe. I'm protected. So we then respect each other because of that practice. So it is a starting point for the spiritual journey towards liberation that is emphasized by the Buddha. We are all on a journey, hoping that it will lead us as we practice to the final liberation, not salvation. We are not going to be saved by someone. Salvation means the day of the Savior will come and pull you up. That's why some religions, they teach you to keep a little lock of hair at your back. So that when the Savior comes, he got to pull by the lock of hair and pull you up. That is the understanding. But as followers of the Buddha's teachings, we know that we have to liberate ourselves by ourselves. So therefore, we have to start somewhere. So we have to create a platform and a protection somewhere, and then develop from there. And thus we move into what we call Bhavana. Now, when we look at the Buddha Stupa, where the relics of the Buddha is being kept, it is represented by 3 stages. The lowest part is actually Sila, which is the foundation. So Sila is the foundation. And if your Sila is not strong enough, actually you can't move to Bhavana. Because when you are disturbed in your minds, when you have a lot of defilements in your mind, when you have a lot of disturbance and thinking, then you will not be able to concentrate. You will not be able to be mindful. And that's why sometimes when we introduce our Buddhist friends to the Buddha's teaching, straight away we pull them to meditation retreat. They will be struggling. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, tak boleh tahan, surrender. Then they go home and never come back again. And that's what happens. So if we notice that a person is not ready, then he must build the foundation. The Sila must be there. The precepts must be observed. And the life must be straightened out by doing a lot of meritorious actions, contribute a lot of dana. And from there, once the life is pacified, the mind is pacified, the conditions are now better. And that is the time when we say, okay, now sit quietly and observe your breath. Then the mind can actually still itself, settle down. And all the dirts and sediments will then go to the bottom, leaving a clear, crystal clear water for you to see through. And that is when you see things as it really are, the absolute truth of phenomena. So Sila is the foundation. Then you will then have to move on to cultivation, which is samadhi. And only from cultivation of samadhi, or mind concentration, or mind mindfulness, then only you can achieve the wisdom, the realization, and understanding things as they really are. Right understanding. So which means to say the 5 precepts is very important, right? You have the precepts which act as a barrier to evil, mental impulses, and deeds. Because it is like a block, a fence. Remember we were talking about fence. And you prevent a person from generating bad karma. So, because you understand the power of it, then you say, oh, I'm not going to do this. Because the seed will be sown and I have to face it one day. So if you believe in the power of karma, then you avoid doing all those unwholesome deeds and unwholesome actions. So these are the basic rules of mental and spiritual hygiene, right? And it's also the antidote against the poison of evil deeds. You protect yourself from committing evil deeds. And thus, sometimes when we lose our mindfulness, when we lose our discipline, we sometimes stray, we sometimes commit an error. But if we observe the precepts well, there is always a good chance that before the action or before the thought or before the speech was about to be released, you can see the slow motion coming and say, okay, you are going to say something not good, or you are going to raise your hand and hitting something no, or you are going to think of something which is not conducive. And then you check yourself and say, okay, slow down. And then eventually you control. So observance of precepts ensure a person against the risk of being born into the states of suffering and war. Because the mind is now straightened out. Now our mental energies is such that when we pass on from this life, wherever we may be born, depends on what happened during the last moments of our mental states. If your mind is thinking of very wholesome things, very happy thoughts, very peace and calm, that frequency itself belongs to a category that is in the upper realms or the happy realms. But if you are desperate, fearful, angry, frustrated, very spiteful, those disturbances creates a frequency which automatically will be received by the realms that is tuned to that type of frequency. It's automatic. If you are transmitting Chupapa, a radio which is tuned to Chupapa will receive you. Don't have to tell it, but Chupapa alai, ken walai. Then you go in here. No need. It's an automatic process. It will be let into and absorbed and thus combined again between a mind and matter, creating what we call a rebirth, a recombination of these two forms of energy. Thus we get another psychophysical being. A psychophysical being can be a human being, can be an animal, can be a Peta, can be a Deva, can be a Brahma. It can be in the hell realms, it can be in the heavenly realms. It depends on what were you thinking at that last thought moments. What frequency are you sending off? So if we are well trained with Sila, if we are well trained and conditioned, the chances of good thoughts arising in our mind, the chances of dana that you have contributed, it becomes very automatic. It becomes like the mainstream of your thinking. Just snap a finger and you can see all the merits that you have accrued. And you rejoice in them. And through that moment of rejoicing, you then transmit yourself and be received into the plane of existence which is tuned to that frequency. I remember there was this uncle who was a very helpful man in the temple. He doesn't know much Dharma. So therefore, he doesn't understand the technicalities. But his role was very, what we call pristine, in the sense, every day without fail, morning and evening, he will go to the gardens in the temple. He will make sure that the flowers, the plants are watered and cared for, and what you call pruned, fertilizer is put. And therefore, the whole garden was beautiful because of his effort. He suffered lung cancer. And on his deathbed, this reverend went over and held his hand. And all he has to do, the reverend will just ask him, "Uncle, can you remember the gardens in our temple? The beautiful flowers that you have contributed, the colors and the smell. It was so wonderful action of yours, a good deed that you have done." He was in pain, but when that thought arises in the mind, it was so peaceful and so calm. You can see the facial reaction was slowly coming down. And then the Reverend says, "Our uncle has just passed away. Good death, good passing, good frequency, isn't it? Where will he be reborn?" No need to check the tongsu and say, one day, you know. So when you have that platform of dana and that platform of sila, and then you now practice your bhavana. You train yourself now, you condition yourself, you mold yourself by pacifying the mind. Now remember, this mind is very active. And it has been active for lives after life. It has grasped so many things. And it sometimes is very stubborn. It grabs and never want to let go. So simpan, put inside the data bank. So imagine the blockchain of your mind. Big data, everything is there. Stored, good, bad, everything is there. So when you have that, eventually, that big data itself will continue to be grasping you. So you must be able to learn how to slowly pacify it, still the mind. And like what Ajahn Chah used to teach, and says the only way to understand the truth is that you must always look at it with a still mind and never be emotional and never be grasping, and you are willing to slowly let it go. Our mind is like this. It's called a grasping mind. Anything that comes and then refuse to let go. That's why we always simpan dendam dalam hati. That dendam never let go, you know. You carry on forward, life after life sometimes. And sometimes when you meet a person and you straight away don't like him, then you say, "Wow, must be last life got dendam." Still cannot let go, you know. So once meet, wei gam liao. But as long as that dendam is there, that grasp is there, that tension is there, that stress is there, you will never have peace of mind. You will never be able to move into realization. So Bhavana actually makes us train our mind. First, by calming ourselves first. Don't observe yet. Don't be mindful. That's why we always move from the state of samatha to vipassana. Vipassana is mindfulness. Samatha is concentration or samadhi. So it is from the point where we say, calm down ourselves, calm down our body, relax our body, think of nothing else, accept only your breathing or accept only an object and focus your mind on the object. And as you focus, your mind becomes concentrated. And when your mind is concentrated, the byproduct of a concentrated mind is peacefulness and bliss. You feel very nice. And that's why we say in samatha, you always have these jhanas, where your mind rapture. Wow, you feel very nice. So nice that you say you want to continue enjoying. Then you cannot start. You will never get out of it because you want to continue enjoying. And that is emotions. And that is grasping already. And that is attachment. As long as you have attachment, sorry, you cannot go further. So you must let go. And when you let go, then you go into the next stage of peacefulness. Blissfulness. More blissful than the first one. Then you are in your second jhanas. And the next stage can be better than the second one. The third stage is called the third jhana. Of course, the ultimate jhana is let go everything already. And that is called enlightenment. That means you enjoy that nibbanic bliss. Now, one who practices the bhavana will always be wise because he knows how to behave himself. He knows how to control now. Because a lot of us have very uncontrollable mind. We cannot arrest it. We cannot slow it down. But as we practice, based on the platform that we are sitting in, that dome, then we'll be able then to slowly settle. And imagine where you have a goldfish bowl of water and it's full of sediments. And then you put your stick there and you turn the water. Take out the stick. Does the water stop turning? The water continues to turn. And when the water continues to turn, the dirt and the sediment will also be whirling around. And thus, can you see through? You cannot see through. It's murky. It's full of sediments. And the view and the vision cannot be true. But each time you put your stick in and keep on turning, it will never stop. The water will never stop turning. And the water will always remain murky. And the water will never be able to see crystal clear vision. Until one day you say, stop putting the stick in. Don't stir it. And when you don't stir it, then by inertia, as it exhausts itself, it slows down, slows down, slows down. And then eventually all the sediment will then settle. So when it settles, now the water is clear. You can see from one end to the other end. And that's what we call, you create right understanding, right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihoods. The Noble Eightfold Path. So the fence of mind, which protects us from wrong thinking, because wrong thinking is always the cause for our suffering. So you create what we call a fence and says, okay, keep this out. And then eventually you focus on this one first for the time being. That's why when we are meditating or practicing bhavana, we close ourselves. And we say, okay, I hear nothing, see nothing, feel nothing, but I'm just going to focus on one object. And that is samatha. And that object is breathing in, breathing out. Watching your breath. Or that object is watching a lotus flower. Or that object is watching a flame, a candle which is burning. And you focus your mind and any thoughts that arise, fence it up. Ring fence it and say, sorry, you are not going to disturb me. I don't want to think about it and I don't want to dwell my mind in it. But I will now think only or focus my mind only on the object of concentration. And like all products, eventually it will give rise to a very sense of peacefulness. And when your mind is calm and when your mind is peaceful, you think better. You analyze better. And that's why sometimes when we want to teach Abhidhamma, you teach Abhidhamma to a person who just came back from a corporate meeting. Tak boleh masuk kan. Lihat bokeh, catch no balloon. But you have to settle him down first. That means meditation retreat first. 3 days, 7 days. After that, then only the higher doctrines of Dhamma comes in. Then you can analyze it moment by moment, step by step. And you can see the rising and falling. That is when you realize the truth, the nature, the characteristics of all phenomena. We call it anicca, anatta, dukkha. Now, constantly remind the mind to observe itself without forming an opinion. That means when you observe, don't form opinion. Don't create a story. Right? When the thought arises, then you don't develop into a storyline and says, oh, that thought leads to this event. So you must always say, ring fence it, observe it. So if the mind is trained to know itself, then it will know its duties, big or small. It knows where to compartmentalize. It knows where to segmentalize. And thus you are able to see things systematically, methodically, step by step. And that's how we analyze things. It's like going into a mathematical formula. When your mind is very disrupted, you cannot remember the formula. But when your mind is still and calm, then the formula arises. And then you apply the formula step by step. And finally come to the last step, line by line, and then QED, proven. That is when you see the actual thing. So, Bhavana is actually mental or meditation culture. So we all have the potential. You all can meditate. Sometimes when we sit there and just says, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, you're already meditating. Sometimes when you're walking, step by step as you walk, I'm walking. Then you're already focused on walking. I will not touch on this a lot because I think next week you are going to discuss more. But as I said, the Dana, Sila, and Bhavana is the root of wholesomeness, our humanity, and also the root of Buddha's teachings. So this is the treasure that we all value because we have that quality, we have that ability to practice, unlike many other religious teachings. Now I just bring you this chart because I want to show you these three things. That when we perform dana, or when we do meritorious actions, when we exhibit a lot of generosity and sharing and contributing our efforts, we are actually sowing seeds. We are actually creating karma. Now remember, karma is energy. That's why we call it karmic energy. And karma is something like our mental energy creates what we call a momentum. A momentum whether move this way or a momentum whether move this way. And depending on how you pushed it, how you mold it, how you conditioned it. Therefore, creating a potential. We always say that, in understanding karma, karma is like converting a kinetic energy into a potential energy. Imagine that you have a spring door, a door with spring hinges, and you push the door will swing open, but because of its spring hinges, it will swing back. So the amount of swinging back, depending on the amount of pushing. If you push the door a little bit, it will swing back a little bit. If you push the door, swing more, then the door will then swing back more. In other words, when you apply an action, that is called kinetic. It's a kinetic energy. And that action then transforms itself into a potential to swing back. And that is called potential energy. And that potential energy will be there unless it is exhausted or spent. So what you do is you push the door, ta, 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 and then you take a hook, you hook it. Does the door swing back? But has the door lost its potential to swing back? The door is still having a potential. If you release the hook accidentally or purposely, then once it's released, the door will then swing back. And if you are in the path, it will hit you and slap you. And that is the nature of karma. It's a potential, action and reaction, kinetic and potential. When you push, there will be an opposite pushing back. If not, then the rocket won't fly into the moon. Because the rocket also depends on this principle, that when it pushes itself up of the universe, of the Earth atmosphere, then when it reaches space, there is no more resistance or no more friction. The amount of push from the atmosphere will then propel it and it keeps on moving. Of course, once in a while, it will let go some burst just to direct the directions. And you will keep on moving as long as friction is not there. So therefore, potential is always there. Now that potential, sometimes we call it luck. You got luck. That means when you're born today, you bring along a potential. That's why sometimes when you are successful in life, you say, well, last life must have done a lot of good things. That's why I bring a lot of choy. 很多财. This is called 天财. But 天财 in the past have been believed that it was bestowed by an emperor, bestowed by a god, bestowed by a supernatural being which says, oh, you're going down to earth, okay lah, give you pocket money. And then the more pocket money he gives you, then when you come down, you can spend more lah. You have more to spend. But if he don't give you pocket money, then you pokai, you come down, you got nothing to spend, then you have to suffer lah. No choice. But in the context of our Buddhist teachings, we say that you have generated a lot of these karmic energies, momentum, the inertia. And that momentum is the potential that you have brought. And we call it 天财. So it is your own doing. It belongs to you. And eventually you will then have to spend it or use it. But when that 天财 is brought and you have it, some of us have a lot, but we never had an opportunity to use it. We never have a platform, we never had a condition. We are born lucky, right? But in a poor family. Or we are born unlucky, but in a rich family. So you have your supportive karma lah, your reproductive karma lah, all these categories of karma you learn later. But your 天财呢, when it's brought over here, you are now what you call having the right condition, a right body to use it. You're born with the right body, your condition is right, and therefore that seed will then germinate and keep on supplying you with good benefits. So you have 天财, you have 地财. But somebody has a lot of 天财, and 地财 also ready for her, or for him. But unfortunately, 没有人才. What do you mean by 人才? 人才 is your effort. Your effort to go and do something about it. Your effort to move in that direction. Your effort to capture the opportunity and make use of the opportunity to exhibit and expand and exhaust your luck. So you have 天才, 地才, 人才. Now let's compare with Dana, Sila, Bhavana. Dana, is it generation of 天才? Dana is meritorious actions. Dana is creating good karmas. Dana is carry forward. If you don't spend it in this life, you can bring forward to the next. Don't finish in the next life, can bring far more forward. So if you have generated a lot, then you can bring forward to many, many future lives. Sila is the platform. The platform where you have created a protection. You have created an opportunity to do some more, to tap and to what you call manifest all our good karmas, all our tian cai. But if you don't have bhavana, you have not contributed an effort to generate that calmness, that peacefulness, that positiveness, so that that platform, that condition will allow your seeds of good karma to germinate. Dana, Sila, Bhavana. So if you understand it that way, then it is actually in relation to this cosmic trinity of Tian Cai, Di Cai, Ren Cai. I give you a story of a man. I think some of you have heard this before for the newcomers. There is this man who see a fortune teller, and the fortune teller says, wow, you got a lot of Tian Cai. Calculate, wow, plenty to spend, cannot habis. And he says, on your 40th birthday, the sky is going to open. And your Tian Cai, the gold, is going to fall down from the sky, all meant for you. So really on his 40th birthday, he went to the door and he looked at the sky. And true enough, the sky really opened. And then gold fell down from the sky. Pop, 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 pop. And it landed in front of his house. Then he looked at the gold. And he says, this gold all meant for me. Water. So it will come into my house. So he sat at the door and waited. But because the gold fell in the open public road, so the passerby walk by, see the gold, public property ma. So 他们也是拿一块，他拿一块。Everybody take one piece. Our friends still waiting there. 进来啦，进来啦。You think the gold will come into the house? You have Tian Cai, Di Cai happens, the condition is right. But do you have the Ren Cai to go and zap the gum? So that is the moral of the story. Right? So the Buddha taught us to perform these three meritorious actions, dana. Today we're going to speak a little bit more on dana. Got time or not? Because that one was trailer. An advertisement just now, a trailer advertisement. Now the real show come out. Still got time. So the Buddha taught us to perform three highly meritorious acts. And this contribute a lot of karmic energies. Now, in order to gain happiness, now and in the future. Remember, whenever we do any good deeds, or whenever we perform any dana, whenever we rejoice in the good deeds and our dana, we feel happy at the moment, isn't it? You don't have to wait until you go to heaven, then only enjoy. Now suffer because you do a lot of good things. That's why we always say is that whenever you perform any good actions, any dana that you perform, rejoice, feel good about it, and says, I have done something good. I'm very happy about it. And in that mental state, it's always positive. In that mental state, it's always peaceful and happy. Now, these three meritorious actions called dana, sila, and bhavana is what we call things that we have to do with our lives and things that we have to do for others and share. So dana is the giving of useful things to other people. A lot of time we say, oh, Kelantan got flood. They need clothes. Then you go to your wardrobe and see which are the clothes you don't want one. And which are the clothes that we never wear for a long time one. and things which you don't really, what you call fancy one. And then you collect, then dump. I remember when during the tsunami, and I was helping out in brick fields. And everybody bring things to come and dump, not give, dump. Soil clothes with smells, or even items which are already, more near expiry. It becomes alam flora. Huh? So useful things, valid things, food for the hungry, medicine to the sick, money to the needy, and kindness and compassion to all living beings. And above all, sharing of the Dhamma and enlightening their minds. This is dana of the first degree. So when we always have that compassion, we must always make sure that that compassion is not at the spur, or not compassion, that compassion is not ad hoc. A lot of time we do compassion ad hoc. We say, oh, next week, Vesak Day, so must do dana. So therefore, you go to the, certain grocery shops and you buy, and then eventually you give. And subsequently, for the rest of the 365 days, you forget about doing dana. And that's called ad hoc, just for the day. And some of us, we go to, say, like Taman Sina Harapan, to help to clean up the mentally retarded children. We wash them, we feed them, we powder them until their face also full of powder. And then after that, for the rest of 365 days, we never even think of them. And that is called ad hoc. Ad hoc compassion. But compassion must be done on a long-term basis. In other words, you do it on an everyday basis. It's a daily affair. Or you do it with the focus of the mind that you are aware of their welfare for the 365 days. So it's important to have what we call a long-term compassion rather than an ad hoc compassion. Now, it may sound paradoxical, but one indeed possesses something worthwhile, not by hoarding, but by sharing with others. Anything that you have extra. That's why we always say when a man feels wealthy, what do you mean by feeling wealthy? Wealthy means you have enough for your own, and yet you still have the extra to give away. Then only the meaning of wealth becomes important. In other words, wealth becomes meaningful. But if you're wealthy and then you keep on becoming wealthy without giving, without sharing, and without having a purpose in your life, then that wealth becomes not meaningful. You become like old King Cole counting his money. But every time after counting, you put back into the safe. I've seen one old Punjabi man, he visits a security deposit box in the bank. And he has a few security boxes in the bank. Don't know what he keeps inside. Share certificate lah, currency lah, gold bars lah, jewelries lah. And then eventually, every morning, he will go there after his breakfast. I think the clerk mending the safe deposit box, when they come and say, I open for you. No need to sign already, And he will sit on the floor, take out all the box. And then eventually he will take out, see, put back, count, put back. After a while, about 2 hours later, then he pack, and he puts it back. Every day, like old King Cole, counting his money. But did he spend the money? Did he share the wealth? So is it meaningful? After when he closed his eyes and breathed the last, that money belongs to who? Not him. It goes to someone else. So if you hoard means you accumulate and don't share. Then you are not doing service to yourself as well as to others. So the more he gives to others, the more he has for his own. And sometimes, when we Whatever little we have, we give, we donate, we contribute. And surprisingly, in our good states of mind, Tian Cai always appear. And all over the blue, something good happens. And it replenishes itself. And I think some of you do have that kind of experience. That because of your good deeds, you continue to enjoy good benefits. And we always encourage our Buddhists, what have you benefited from all the good deeds? Oh, I have enjoyed this. I have achieved this. I've got this. With that inspiration, would you want to do more good deeds? Oh, I want to do some more because it has given me a lot of joy. And that is the inspiration that we get by contributing, by doing, by helping out. But why the reluctance to give? Why are people so reluctant to give? Attachment is always the culprit. Strong attachment. If I give, then I don't have how? But you don't give, then you sure don't have one. People have strong attachment to possessions that they are unprepared to share because they are slaves to their possession. And greed is their master. And we always know that greed doesn't give us good outcome. Then anger and hatred also hinder a person from being generous. And always the time when we say, if I give, and that person didn't use it properly, I give it to a person who is homeless. He took the money, he go and buy Guinness stout and drink instead of feeding his stomach. So you get very agitated, you get very angry. So therefore you say, no, I'm not going to give anymore. Now reluctance can also be due to fear. That if you are seen giving a lot, then all the people who want to cheat one, people who want to steal one, they got target already. So sometimes you want to give also quietly, anonymous. So a person is afraid to give also sometimes because of fear of danger to their health. A lot of people actually fear to give blood. A lot of people fear to give their organs. I know of a lady, when I approached her to give away what you call the eye cornea. Hey, cannot give. After that, when I go over there, I cannot see how. So such fears are unfounded. But due to ignorance and lack of understanding, and also lack of compassion. But why should we give? Dana is the antidote to the poison of greed. It's the opposite. The more you give, the less greed you have. Because each time we give selflessly, we chip away our mighty crag of selfishness. Our self becomes big or small, depending on how much we give. So the more we give, that selfishness slowly cracked up, chipped up, and slowly reduced in size. And we purify ourselves by giving, by having pure thoughts and good thoughts, thus increasing our happiness. You feel joyful, isn't it, when you give? You feel joyful when you have performed an act of dana. So the act of charity promotes wholesome thoughts, actions, speech, which creates good karma. And that is where your Tian Cai comes out. And the Buddha taught that a person give alms to monks or virtuous person gains 5 blessings. What are they? You get affection from many. People respect you. People feel very respectful of you. You have noble association. You have good reputation, self-confidence, and of course, when you pass away, with that thought in your mind, heavenly birth. This is in the Anguttara Nikaya 5, Sutta 34. So what is actually true generosity? Because dana is actually a lot about generosity. Now, generosity springs from the heart. Don't give because it is actually intellectually good to give. But from your quotient, your emotional quotient, you feel that you want to generate that compassion seed that you have. So it arises with compassion, a lot of friendliness, a lot of kindness, because it goes hand in hand with sympathy. Sympathy, compassion means you sympathize with the suffering and you want to relieve their suffering. And that's why you have compassion. That's why we call it the Bodhisattva ideal. 慈悲. You can't bear to see someone which is deprived, who is actually disenfranchised, or who is unfortunate. Now, it is not patronage, because the giving with the intention of indebting another is not correct. That means when I give you, remember next time when my turn comes, you must give me. That is called indebting another. So the one who gives is not in any way more superior than to the receiver. So always have that pington, same level of equality, and says the receiver is not the Korean one. It's just that there is a feel of merit. And when you think like that, then the person is placed on the same level as you. Otherwise, you look down and give down. So true generosity is giving without ulterior motive. Right? That means to say, oh, no, I give him so that next time he will probably help me out. So there was an ulterior motive there. Or if I give him, then he will tell somebody, then I will be famous. Then again, an ulterior motive. So he gives with no strings attached. Does not expect gratitude in return. And he has given. And that is the end of the matter. So he never complains when people take his gift for granted. Because sometimes we find people grumble. You see, I give the person so much, he go and squander it off. Or I give him so much, that he's never grateful. And he takes me for granted. Every time we need something, he will come to me. So I will always be the victim. So once we think like that, then it negates all the rejoicing. And what we want from generosity is the rejoicing in our mind. So as long as your mind is positive, you have actually done it correctly. So the person who cultivates this virtue is on his road of growing stronger and freer with every gift he gives. Because he purifies himself in giving selflessly. So this is called true generosity. But there are different aspects of dana. Giving is not just giving material possessions. We can be generous with our knowledge, skill, time, and energy. Dhamma dana is also one of them. Sharing your spiritual experience. Giving advice for them to reduce their unsatisfactoriness or suffering. Giving knowledge so that they have the right understanding. This kind of dana is also very valuable. And each time you think about that, you have been able to have the opportunity to do it. Be happy about it. Rejoice in what you have done. And of course, the Buddha did sacrifice himself on many occasions, even with his own life, in his previous life, not in that life as Prince Siddhartha. So in his previous life, he even offered himself as food because the tigress was actually injured. And there's these 5 cups, what you call trying to suckle for milk. But unfortunately, because the tiger is not fat, the tiger will not produce milk. And the 5 cups will eventually die. So will be the mother tiger. So the Buddha, in his previous life, as a bodhisattva, offered himself and threw himself into front of the tiger and allowed the tiger to eat him up. So that the tiger will have food. And when he has food, then he's able to produce milk. When he's able to produce milk, the 5 cups will leave. The mother tiger will leave, the 5 cups will leave for the expense of one life, which is the bodhisattva. So that is also dana, the dana of the gift of life. Now, it is also equally wholesome to appreciate the good deeds of others, as it is a form of dana and it contributes to a harmonious society. In other words, when someone performs dana, you appreciate, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. You encourage. You say, well, it's a good thing that you have done. You say a good word for them. You encourage them. You inspire them. You sort of cajole them to try and do more. That also is dana. So dana is just not material possessions. And then giving others an opportunity to appreciate our wholesome deeds is another form of dana. So when we perform deeds with pure intentions, we should let our deeds be known to others as source of inspiration to them and for them to share our merits. Sometimes when we do a lot of donations, we say anonymous. No, you must tell people that you have given. You become a leader to them. You become a person who inspires them to give. And say, so and so has given. I have given. And I rejoice in what I have done. I'm very happy about what I've done. And that itself will then give an opportunity for others to rejoice, to appreciate. In other words, promote mudita. Mudita means altruistic joy. They are happy for your happiness. And once that is cultivated, then it's a form of dana. So dana is not just pure giving away possessions. It is also efforts. That's why in Hokkien we say, Ului chut ulat chut bo lui bo lat chut chui lo, gong liao lo. I got money, give money. Got strength, give strength. No money, no strength, give your mouth talk only lah. Encouraged. So what is the highest form of dana? Without saying, the gift of dhamma is the greatest gift of all. For those of us who are involved in the dissemination, in the setting up of centers, in the provision of facilities, in the organization of events, these are the highest dana that we could do. If only we can spare some time. People ask me, why are you doing this for 40 over years? I say, I rejoice, ma. I song, ma. And because of that rejoicing, you create a good personality. You have a good natureness. You gain a lot of respect and people listen to you. You kong bolang tia lagi teruk. But because you have that joy, and that gift of Dhamma benefits more people because it changed their mind. In one of our seminars about 2 weeks ago, we were talking about transformation in the Buddha Sasana. That each time we transform somebody, and that he is able to come back and say, because of you, I've changed. Because of you, I've become a better person. Because of you, I have become happier, less fussier, more simple, and much more satisfied in whatever and contented in whatever I have. Oh, you should feel joyful. Not only he feel joyful, you should feel joyful. Because you have contributed towards the transformation of another being. And that is the highest form of dana. And I think we all benefit a lot of good things in our life because of this. And I have a very strong belief that I have benefited so much in my life, so much accolades, so much good fortune, so much good career opportunities because of these contributions and dana that I have done since I was a young man. Thank you. So once the thirst for truth is quenched, you will never thirst again because you have truly given him a priceless gift. So how can you contribute? Time lah. Give your time and effort to help spread the message of the Lord Buddha. Be a missioner yourself. Some people, when you are asked to come and give a talk, I know very little. I'm not so well trained. Can you tell me, after so many years of practicing the Buddha's teaching, what have you benefited? How have you changed? How happy are you now? Think. Write out. Come out here and tell about it. Dharma talk already. Because we are all speaking from experiential learning. I'm here not because I'm an expert in the Dharma. I cannot quote you the Dhammapada verses, every one of them. I cannot quote the Pali or even read out the Pali verses all the time. That's why you find that my talk, I use very little Pali word because I'm very weak at that. But I share the experience and the joy. And this joy, actually, put it this way, money cannot buy one. You cannot go to the vending machine and put your head inside and tong your lui and say, wow, joy, 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 joy. And then you get, wow, come up, why? Sparkling, a lot of stars. Now give your time for charitable and welfare work. And some people ask me, why are you going back to Ladakh year after year? No. Next year I will be going. That will be my 21st visit. I still get the joy when I go there and see the children. But it is a long-term compassion, not ad hoc. For the 365 days, I will be their ambassador here. I collect, I send, I promote, I give talks, I send videos to get more sponsors. And we are very lucky. Malaysian is the biggest group of sponsors in Ladakh now. Sadhu. And Venerable Sangasena is now arranging for a video, what you call a conference on the 6th of October. So we'll be sending you an invitation for those who are on the list so that you can participate and join together with all the members of the world. Of course, this year there are some groups from Malaysia who has gone and visited. One of them just came back last week. One of the group came back last week. Now, donate money to print Dharma materials. It does not matter how much you donate. Sometimes we say, oh, yo, I got so little. No. Every cent counts. Remember when there was this old lady who wanted to go and visit the Buddha and listen to the Dhamma. And then everybody was paying huge money to buy incense and oil and everything. And she wanted to do it. But she has no money. So what does she do? She asked the shopkeeper and says, can I have some oil? The shopkeeper said, do you have money? No money. No money, I cannot give you oil. So she was thinking and finally she decided that no, I'll sacrifice this lock of hair, cut it, and offered it to the shopkeeper. And the shopkeeper then gave her a little bunch of oil. And then he placed it at the Buddha's feet when he visited the Buddha's hall. And there was a huge thunderstorm where the strong winds were coming in. All the other oil lamps were burned out, except her little lamp. That is the value. That whatever little you have, it is valuable. So with that, the gift of Dhamma excels all gifts. The taste of Dhamma excels all tastes. The delight in Dhamma excels all delight. The craving freed vanquishes all suffering. Sadhu.